Hey everybody, welcome to the MaffmanJones movie channel. I am your host, John Maffio, and today's featured movie is Revenge. You may not have heard about this movie, but I'm here to tell you about it. I've heard a lot of buzz about this on the internets and the interwebs, so I decided to check it out on demand because it's in select theaters and on demand. It's a little indie movie about three men who go on an animal hunting trip in a desert canyon, and one of them is being a little unfaithful to his family. He has a little mistress, played by Matilda Lutz, who you may have seen in the recent Ring sequel, Rings. Things get a little out of hand, and without spoiling, Matilda Lutz's character suddenly on a survival trip of her own, where she basically has to defend her own life, whatever means necessary, from these three guys who are out to kill her. So the one stereotypically hot woman becomes the badass. And that transition is oh so sweet. Now, I just mentioned before that there's been a lot of buzz about this movie online. On the other hand, there's been a lot of discussion about subtext. And a lot of times, I'm not the most intelligent person in the world when it comes to watching movies like this, so I'm just watching and feeding into the plot or the story or the characters and just going, wow, that's cool. And then I recognize subtext later on. I definitely see the greater picture here. In one way, I interpret this as Hollywood as it's been lately before the whole Me Too movement. And it reminds me of that very much so, with this woman who was portrayed in the first act as she's hot, she's sexy, she's just here to sleep with men and be this tool for dudes. And then something happens, and she has to make this really hellish and brutal transition into becoming something else entirely, but it makes her stand on her own and able to defend herself from these men as well as the entire world. And it's in that way I really appreciate this movie, but also I really came from at least the first viewing, I came here to tell you about the style. Because this French female director, I can't say her name, so I'm just going to put her here. I don't want to disrespect and botch it because she created one hell of a film with this. And it's a simple plot, but she does a lot with that little plot. And she does more with characters, especially Matilda Lutz, who she didn't really do much in Rings for me, but here proves to me that she has a place in Hollywood if she wants to keep being in movies, at least. That's probably a dumb thing to say. Of course she wants to make more movies. She's an actress in Hollywood. What's the deal with airplane nuts? This may be one of my favorites of the year, come the end of 2018, because there's so much that I loved about this movie. Matilda Lutz, especially, she makes that transition from defenseless, hot, stereotypical woman to badass exceptionally well, and that's a lot of that is thanks to the directing too. But she herself, I bought into it. I bought into this woman who had to make some really tough decisions in order to stay alive. I was really surprised in the direction of her character in a way where she's basically going out on this revenge mission to hunt these guys after what happens to her, but you can see fear in her eyes. And I really like the way that it was portrayed, that this character has no choice really but to go out and seek these guys and give them what they deserve. She's shaking, her lips are quivering, she doesn't have the greatest handle on herself. She reminded me very much of myself in Call of Duty back in the day, in Search and Destroy, where once you die, you die. And it was just me on the team and 3 or 4 people left on the other team. And if I want to try to win, I have to go out there and expose myself, be vulnerable, and try to find these other guys. And like I would be shaking as the controller's there because I'm like, I'm nervous I'm going to get killed at any moment from any given direction. And I really felt that in her performance, that she knows that at any moment she can get picked off, but she really has no choice. She has to move forward. Where she starts out in the beginning and where she ends up by the end of the movie, it's one hell of a process, but getting there was a lot of fun, also very bloody, also extremely violent. If these people in real life lost this much blood all the time, as consistently as they were, they'd be dead a lot quicker, or even not alive in the first place. There's a little suspension of disbelief you have to go with to enjoy this movie, but if you're like, yeah, how'd that happen? No, they'd be dead. She'd be dead. No. Then you may not enjoy this movie entirely, or if at all, because the entire time you're going to be thinking about real life consequences that should be occurring with a couple of these characters. I also mentioned before style when it comes to revenge, and there is a lot of style in this, especially as a film fan, to just eat up. Again, I'm not going to say her name, but this French woman director, she really has an eye for showing things in a visual way that tell you a story, but also without saying dialogue, letting you know where characters are physically and mentally. There's a couple sequences in this movie that were really interestingly shot from her perspective on where the characters are, especially Matilda Lutz, when she's on the run, and there's a couple parts where she is alone and she makes one decision when it comes to her stomach, and that's probably the most memorable moment of the movie for me. But it was more in the way that it was directed than the actual situation itself. Even though the situation itself was scary for that character, the way it was filmed was unforgettable. For a movie that takes place in a very prominently singular location, there's a lot of color, a lot of pop. There's a lot of interesting ways that the movie feels like an 80s pulp ride. And finally, the last act of this movie is just a great mix of camera work, music, characters, just trying to find each other in this bloody maze. Blood trails are also a big deal in this movie. Lots of people following trails of blood. But the last 25 minutes or so in this movie was like very satisfying to watch, even though you're watching these characters like run around and you're like, just let it happen already. But overall, Revenge was a very satisfying revenge flick for me. Matilda Lutz really surprised me here with her performance. This female French director, who I'm not going to say her name again because I don't want to botch it, because I respect you. I want to respect you by not botching your name. Really impressive directorial debut, and I can't wait to see what she does next in the action genre, and if she decides to keep incorporating this intense level of gore into her movies. The character work, the arc from beginning to end for the main character is splendid, but it's also extremely bloody, full of style, and this is, right now, one of my favorites of the year. Highly recommend it. I'm going to give Revenge a 4 out of 5 stars. It's a darn good movie. Definitely check it out if you're not squeamish. If you're squeamish, but you're deciding that you want to take a dive into this movie, Godspeed and good luck. But now I want to know from all you boys and girls, what do you think of Revenge? Let me know in the comments down below. Speaking of this movie, what's your favorite revenge film? What comes to mind first for me are the Kill Bill films and John Wick. If you enjoyed this review, please like, ring that bell, subscribe if you haven't already so you won't miss any reviews from me ever again, and check out my social medias and my Stardust, where I did a couple of Stardust reactions for this movie too, down below. And that's it for me today. Look forward to my review for Deadpool coming very soon. Deadpool 2. First one I reviewed a while ago. I'm John Maffio, aka MaffmanJones, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace out.